And people want to know these questions that they write in. Okay, this is for Governor Sununu. What do you make of Biden's decision to make South Carolina the first Democratic primary? Say, right, now you're governor of New Hampshire. That was always, and still is, the Republican first.
No, and the Democrat. I'm sorry, Joe, we're going first. I don't care what the Democrat Party doesn't dictate who goes first. The state of New Hampshire does.
No, but they're not saying that. The Democrat changed theirs.
No, they didn't.
They didn't?
So the Democrats tried, but New Hampshire's Democrat primary will still go first. Because, again, our law says we're going to go first. And this is Biden's real problem because he's left a huge opening for someone to come into New Hampshire, campaign there strong with some name ID, and charge through, essentially. By the way, South Carolina doesn't have a first-in-the-nation primary. They dictate. Trump didn't have one in 20. They just said Trump's the winner. So Biden has effectively moved the first in the nation, tried to move it from New Hampshire to a state that won't even hold it. They'll just say, you're the incumbent, you're the winner. So it's actually a horrible miscalculation on his part. Okay. But I'm sorry, Joe, we're going.
In a fierce exchange that caught the audience's attention, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu took a strong stand in Live Time with Bill Maher, strongly defending his state's historic place as the first primary in the nation. Rejecting precedent. Biden's attempt to prioritize South Carolina, Sununu described the move as a foolish overreach, claiming that New Hampshire's grassroots-driven process and outstanding voter engagement represent the actual spirit of democracy. He noted that state law, not federal preference, determines New Hampshire's main position, calling the measure a major error by the administration. With uncompromising conviction, Sununu asserted that the Granite State would not relinquish its place at the forefront of American democracy, defining the conflict as not just about history, but about defending the voice of the people in the political process.
Okay, now you announced on our show tonight that you're running for president.
I know, well, again, it's about the indictment. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
In essence, he did. It didn't, not in so many words, but
I did?
Look.
My wife is texting me as we speak.
Okay.
Say it ain't so.
But New Hampshire, I mean, that's a wash for you because you're from New Hampshire. So that primary is meaningless for you because if you don't win it, then, oh my God, you can't even win your home state. And if you do win it, it means nothing.
No, if you win, it won't. If I were to win New Hampshire, it would be you didn't win by enough. And if you lose it, you're totally toast. It's actually a disadvantage.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sununu's fervent support of New Hampshire's position comes in response to President Biden's decision to select South Carolina as the first Democratic primary state, a move that Sununu perceives as both short-sighted and detrimental to the democratic process. He thinks that New Hampshire's strong voter turnout and culture of civic activity make it the best state to kick off the primary season. Moreover, state law demands that New Hampshire hold the first primary, and Sununu made it obvious that the state will observe this legislation regardless of decisions made by the Democratic Party. Sununu also points out what he considers as problems in Biden's approach, notably the lack of actual voter input in South Carolina's primary process. He saw Biden's move as a concession to political convenience rather than a fidelity to democratic ideals, accusing the administration of sidelining New Hampshire's more open and participatory system. This issue isn't just about New Hampshire's pride, it's about a wider argument about the ideals of fairness and representation in the political process. Sununu stresses his belief that grassroots democracy, rather than top-down mandates, should drive the nation's political structure. His statements resonate with those who regard New Hampshire's primary as a symbol of their voice and their role in influencing national leadership.
For you, Lieutenant Governor Sears, what's a realistic way to approach immigration reform?
Heavens, how about doing it the right way and doing it the legal way? I mean, my dad had to wait in line, wait his turn, sign all kinds of documents, prove who he was. I mean, you got to know who's coming into the country. We are a nation of laws, and if he had to do it, everybody's got to do it. That's the law. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, don't apologize. That's the right answer. You nailed it.
Oh, no, I'm not apologizing.
Okay. Governor Sununu, should we be doing more to secure our northern border to prevent to prevent the trafficking of drugs?
And Canadians.
What?
And Canadians. They're very dangerous.
So northern border crossings up 800%.
800%?
800, hundreds of thousands in just the last quarter from Canada. Yeah, so we're doing kind of our part. A lot of the states are open. It's a very unprotected border, but it's nothing like the southern border, of course. But yeah, you have to protect the northern border as well. Canada has agreements with about 5 different countries. You don't even need visas. I think Honduras, El Salvador, they fly to Canada and then they walk across. We have them walking across through the woods in New Hampshire.
Now, of course,
Our longest border is with Canada.
Sears underlines the critical need for competent law enforcement at both the northern and southern borders, noting major increases in drug trafficking and illicit crossings. She called attention to vulnerabilities along the northern border, where crossings have grown substantially due to Canada's visa arrangements with countries like Honduras and El Salvador. Sears adds that robust border security is vital not simply to preserve the rule of law, but also to safeguard communities from the hazards of drug cartels and human trafficking. Her message resonates with a burgeoning drive for fairness and accountability in the immigration system, pushing for a process that respects both potential immigrants and the inhabitants presently within the nation. By showing the subject through a profoundly personal lens and tying it to bigger security challenges, Sears underlines the relevance of valid admittance as a cornerstone of American sovereignty and safety.
another critique of your state as a primary state is that it's not diverse, so it doesn't really look like America.
We have the highest voter turnout in the country. South Carolina's diversity, look, South Carolina has about 15% voter turnout. What's the point of diversity if you don't let anybody vote, if nobody comes out to participate? We have rich, we have poor, we have black, we have white, it doesn't matter. Everyone in New Hampshire participates in the process.
Well, I mean...
I'll put my diversity against South Carolina's any day when you actually look at who's actually voting and participating.
The only black you have there is a bear. It's a very white state. No.
Oh, sure, of course.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But I'm just saying, that's...
But isn't it about who participates? Isn't it about actually having a primary? Like I said, the Democrats likely aren't even going to hold the primary in South Carolina. So what's the point of diversity if you don't let people participate? I mean, they say that we subvert the vote by asking people for an ID. They subvert the vote by not even letting them show up. I mean, that's the reality you're facing here. So that's why we're the best at the First of the Nation primary. The high voter participation, the voter turnout, local control. And here's the most important part.
I can't help you, Bill.
I'm
not following this argument, but go ahead.
I'm from Massachusetts, and we used to refer to New Hampshire as Kentucky and New England. So that's...
Really? That's not nice.
Coming from Massachusetts, right? Coming from Massachusetts, give me a break. Why is New Hampshire the fastest growing state in the Northeast?
That's
Come on.
Not fair. That's not
Come on.
I didn't say I agreed with it. It's just, that was what we used to say.
Governor Chris Sununu answered complaints of New Hampshire's seeming lack of diversity by turning the attention to what he considers as the actual measure of democratic success: voter participation and active involvement. Sununu passionately defends his state, arguing that New Hampshire's democratic process sets the model for grassroots democracy. With the biggest voter engagement in the nation, he highlights that the state's involvement bridges racial and socioeconomic boundaries, indicating a devotion to democratic values that should be the center of any conversation. In contrast, Sununu referred to South Carolina, the state chosen in President Biden's modified primary calendar, as an example of weak voter turnout despite its increased ethnic variety. He says that diversity without meaningful participation undermines the aim of democracy, throwing into question the effectiveness of a system that fails to generate wider voter involvement. For Sununu, New Hampshire's inclusivity rests not in its demographics, but in its propensity to nurture active and engaged citizenry, ensuring that every voice is heard in the democratic process. By reframing the problem, Sununu argues that New Hampshire's approach should be commended as an example of civic responsibility, rejecting the premise that diversity alone is a characteristic of democratic legitimacy. His argument is a rallying cry for prioritizing involvement and engagement as the cornerstones of a functioning democracy. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder.